evening to all of you. Welcome to my podcast on this Wednesday. It is December 13th, 2023. Once a week, I like to talk about different topics related to learning, teaching, and leadership. And I'm here with you for, I don't know how much time it will take tonight, maybe 5 minutes to 15 minutes, because I am working on creating a video tutorial for someone that needs one. So on this, let's start. Have you ever noticed sometimes that when you are in a situation that sometimes you are not as excited as it could be? And I was thinking about, I went to the pharmacy today and we have a stores called Shoppers. And as I was walking towards the exit, someone walked in and the person looked like she was a happy person. She came in, she had large eyes, she was aware of her surrounding, and there was a lot of charisma coming from her. And so that was the first thing that happens. And I got home and I was listening to a video when I was cooking, and then there was someone training for to be in sales, and the person was saying that how most of the time people can be somehow boring. And I don't want to offend anybody here, but I was thinking that in some ways, I am somewhat boring in times, either because I get into routine at home. At work, same thing. We get in a routine with the schedule, with people around us. And too often we forget that we can be more excited with what's happening around us. So today, I want to talk about how we can bring some excitement in the learning, some excitement in teaching, as well as in leadership. I do it for you, but mostly it's a good reminder for me so that tomorrow I can be a better person and I can be less boring. So let's see what it means. So when you're learning, we are, and by the way, if you're new to my podcast, my name is Alain Faber. I've been teaching for more than 25 years, and I started this podcast because I am to share with the students how to create a podcast. And the best way to teach is to be able to go and walk the walk so that you can understand what are the key aspects. And one part of me starting a podcast is finding a way to be able to share information in English so I can share ideas, input, and in many ways practice my English so I can be more interesting. I always break down my podcast into three parts. First part is about learning, second part is about teaching, and the third part is about how we can use what we are sharing into leadership roles, either at a company, as part of a team, as part of your family. And that's how I work my podcast. So that being said, let's see what the first topic is today. First topic about learning. And the idea here is how can we be more excited and for in some ways in your surrounding a bit less boring around there. And I think the best way to do this is when you come to an environment is to be curious that you know what, you might be able to learn one more thing today. Because when I like in my daily life, I always feel that if you can learn even one thing in your day, it's been a successful day. Learning is something I live by. Learning languages, learning the idea that I love science, so learning new things about science allows me to keep my curiosity going and know that I don't know everything yet, which is exciting. So if you're a learner and you are going into a setting where it's a classroom, if you're younger, if you are older and you're going through training, you can go in there saying, oh, I have to go through training. Oh, I have another class. And often people say, oh, I have to do the learning. But one person could say, I have to do it, whereas other people could say, well, I get to learn something new. And that's exciting because on top of learning something new, when you start saying, okay, let's see if I can apply what I learned so I can become better at what I do, then that gets exciting. Because the purpose of learning is not just to gather knowledge here, is how can you use it so that in your life you can make it better. So as a learner, being curious allows you to get excited about, okay, something new may come up today, something that I did not know before will make my day just because I'm here. And I think this is always exciting to think about. Now, often if you are with other people may say, well, you know what? Uh, some people may feel one way, other people may get excited. So, in some ways, you have to look into who you want to have in your surrounding in the learning environment, and that makes a difference there. Yes, and keep in mind that a lot of people are going doing the same thing over and over, day in, day out. It's part of the routine. They don't uh, they don't change. And the fact that learning is possible allows you to expand your horizon. Because when you expand your horizon, you expand your comfort zone so you can go and test a few more things. And that's quite important. Because if you don't learn anything new, then someone could say, well, how will you be in 3 years? How will you be in 5 years? That's a good question. And think about it. Would you like to be the same person you are right now in 5 years? In 10 years? I'm sure that you would like to know that you've evolved and you're doing something beyond that. So let's see if we can keep that in mind. My second topic is about teaching. And interestingly enough, every so often I go into class, and I'm sure that if you are a trainer and working with adults, you do a lesson, you do an activity, and sometimes you say, oh, you know what? It was a great activity because you did something new, you learned something about the crowd that you are working with, and people were interested in the learning. But every so often, if the energy is not there, or the planning of the activity is not there, what happens is you finish an activity and you say, you know what? This was the most boring class I've ever done. And you know what? I would say that every year there's several days where I think to myself, this is the most boring class I've ever done. Maybe it's exaggerating because over the years I have had so many classes. But keeping in mind that every year, if it's, I don't know, 5 or 10 very boring class out of the hundreds I do every year, it is a success rate, I think, anyway. And the idea of wanting to try something different when you teach, a new strategy, a new a new way to approach a situation, and even for teacher to learn new ways of approaching a situation allows you to stay curious, to be excited because the more you learn, the more your mind stays alert to the learning, and then you can help people you're with, trainees or students, to feel that oh, they are following you as a teacher in their learning journey. And I think that's quite exciting. So when I'm in my science class, something I love to do is labs. So I know that when I have labs, I'm always happier in what I do. And I think it shows in my class as well because many people are excited to do the labs to learn how things are. And the beauty with labs is that most of the time we make it so that it works. But every so often we are working on situation where nothing works at all. But that's the beauty of learning through doing. Because if you do something and it's not working, you can still learn something from, and I call it failing forward. You're learning through doing. If it works, you go to the next step. That means that you need to expand a bit more what you know. And if it's you're struggling, then you know that you have learning that needs to happen. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And I'm not saying that as a teacher, I start my day saying, okay, today I need not to be boring. That's not the best way to do this. But it's to be curious, to read something in the morning before I leave. It's to listen to motivational video that always opens my heart, opens my mind for the day. And one person I follow is Evan Carmichael, and I always love the way he projects. Now, he shares information with us about his journey as an entrepreneur and other entrepreneurs' journey. That is a great way to learn. My third topic about leadership is the idea here that, so here again, I was listening to a video from people being trained for sales. And he was talking about how, as a leader, you need to be able to learn not just for the fact that you, as a human, you need to learn something new. Because when you go from someone who does the work to a leadership role, there's so many more aspects you need to keep in mind. You may not do any more as much hands-on, but you're there to guide others to do the hands-on so everything works well. Because if as a leader you do all the hands-on, then you're micromanaging and you're not helping the situation, I think anyway. So as a leader, you need to be continuously, there you go, um, alert for new learning. So here's learning leadership skills and so on, but also learning about your team. Because learning about your team allows you to better understand people that are there around you, but also you can guide them to become the best version of themselves. And that's important. So if you are a leader of a group, then you are with your group, you're doing the best you can so they can learn, so they can stay excited. If you're the head of your family, part of leading a family or community, it's the same thing. If you can together guide others to be curious to learn something new, then guess what? The chances are that you will be able to stay excited, so that as a leader, you stay excited for people that you're leading. And same way, if you're a teacher, you stay excited for the teaching and learning. And for the learner, then people will stay excited saying, you know what? There's lots to learn and there's lots to say about learning, because everybody around me, the more they learn, the more excited they are. And therefore, it is a good way to resolve things. It's an active way to say, okay, I'm going to take action. I'm going to learn what I don't know. I'm going to get better at what I do so I can go to the next level. So this is my message for today. I know that you're doing great today. I believe in you. So what I want you to do in the next couple of days, I want you to, when you get up in the morning, to think about, okay, what can I do to increase my curiosity level so that you can be aware and mindful of your surrounding, get to know people, get to know new things. You'll get excited, you'll be more positive, and people around you will feel it. So that's the message for today. On this, I'm going to put a link here or here. Anyway, this is, I think, my 14th or 15th podcast. Very happy to be here with you. And I'm having this podcast every Wednesdays at 7:30. On this, if you have any questions or thoughts, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below, because I always like to know what you're thinking. On this, have a great day. Bye-bye.